John, welcome to the Dunedin Stories podcast.
Kia ora, good to be here.
Fantastic to have you with us today. I'm excited to hear, after I think maybe about 6 months or so, where you're at on your journey with your organisation called Aspire Daily.
Terrific.
Yeah.
6 months has passed. I have done a qualification, a level 3 certificate in whānau ora through Kokiri Training Centre, and that has only made the incentive to grow Aspire Daily stronger. So Here we are.
Good timing.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is Aspire Daily? We can kind of fill in the gaps, I think, but there's a whole lot to it, isn't there?
Yeah, there certainly is. Aspire Daily follows my journey through health and well-being, where I share various kinds of media. So I do videos, I do social media channels, I write blogs, I write poems, and at the moment I'm writing a book. And Aspire Daily is sort of the framework that I built so that I could put all of these creative projects into one place.
Yeah.
I grow a massive passion for health and well-being, mindfulness, holistic sort of healing, and didn't know where to put it all. So I built that to sort of house all of these different endeavours.
Awesome. So a project of that nature usually begins because you've got your own story and you had perhaps been seeking resources of that type and maybe couldn't find them.
Yep.
So a little bit of insight into the why you've started Aspire Daily.
Absolutely. So I have a colourful background, and I sort of moved to Dunedin, and that activated a bit of a fresh start for me. That's where my passion for holistic healing really came through. I sought some counselling for mental health and substance use and all of that kind of thing. And I was in sort of this rough patch where I just lost my driver's license for a year because I got in heaps of trouble and all of that sort of thing. So I was talking to this counsellor, and he sort of opened my eyes to subconscious reprogramming and sort of getting in through those those voices that stem through a lifetime that can stay there and sort of hold you back, and learning how to speak to those sort of activated something. It woke something back up. So that inner child that was sort of waiting there to create and do things was like, there is a really cool future. Wow, we can aspire for so much more. And there go Aspire Daily.
Yeah. Beautiful. Those inner voices can be loud and obnoxious, can't they?
Certainly can.
Yeah. So, in creating Aspire Daily as a platform, how have you found that process of building an organisation, which is basically what you're doing? Has there been some bumps in the road or particular awesome things that have happened that you'd like to talk about?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because of all of the creative ideas that I was talking about, try to put everything into Aspire Daily. So,
all at once.
Yeah. So I was helping out with Kokiri Training Centre at course and making A4 documents and things like that we could use for content planning or as a sort of a resource. And I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll put digital media into Aspire Daily, and that can be a way to make, sort of the business get off its feet, get running. And I realized that I didn't really like creating that kind of thing with that, so definitely been some roadblocks. My biggest one at the moment, I would say, is establishing a bigger network for that and sort of speaking into the void that is the internet, but it's been a really interesting and insightful journey, and realizing that I want to create and write and do things more than I want to do financial revenue through the company.
Yeah.
I've done that before. I started a mechanical business in Christchurch, and it was kind of another hobby that I turned into a money sort of idea. Revenue, and that didn't work out so well for me. So sort of with that experience and this experience, I've learned follow the passion, follow that light, and it's been so some roadblocks where I'm going, been cool. Yeah,
and it is hard to measure the success of what you're doing when it is, as you say, screaming into what feels like the void.
Yeah.
But the audience could be large, but you aren't aware of that because you can't measure it, can you?
Yeah.
And the impact, I think, that you want to have on yourself and others is another thing that's really hard to measure until you start gathering those stories, which are hard to tell sometimes, aren't they? You know, so good on you for doing what needs to be done for yourself and for others, and recognising that it's not a money-making venture. A bit like us, we don't expect to own a yacht, and we want to help the community in the ways that we can. John, you alluded to not being from Dunedin. So do you want to give us a little bit of insight into how you arrived here and what it is about Dunedin that attracted you?
Certainly. So my mum, you know, the most resilient figure in my life, moved to Dunedin a few years ago, and I remained in Christchurch, and I sort of went through my tumbles, and that led me to coming down here. She actually came up to Christchurch and she picked me up, and it was one of those moments of, we're going to leave everything behind and start fresh. Nice. So that's kind of how I ended up in Dunedin, and sort of reconnecting with whānaus helped big time with the personal development project, and I found my home in Dunedin, interestingly. And I noticed that I've got lots of ancestors from Dunedin, and all of these really cool things have been happening in Dunedin. So it's over the past 2 to 3 years, it's really become my home. And now the interesting thing I see is when I'm traveling, I used to feel like I was going home to Christchurch, but now when I turn around and come back to Otago, I'm like, I'm feeling at home. So that's kind of how it came to be.
Beautiful. Well, very similar story from a lot of people that they arrive here not sure really if they should be, and then they find that it really is home. Any particular businesses or organisations or individuals that you'd like to highlight that have supported you in your journey so far with Aspire Daily?
Absolutely. Not only personally, but with Aspire Daily as well.
Yeah.
So I've mentioned Kokiri Training Centre. That was such a great activator to get out in the community and get started and learn about health and wellbeing. And then through another organisation called WEKA, where I did peer support, and another organisation called Life Matters, Suicide Prevention Trust, where I did peer support as well.
Awesome. So
those 3 organisations were catalysts for change for me in the journey, and I can't highlight them enough. So
that's beautiful. Oh, they're incredible organisations, aren't they? Dunedin as a X factor, is there anything you think in particular that she has as a tag for that?
Dunedin's X factor. What stands out about Dunedin? I like how funky and quirky and sort of, I like the old buildings and things like that coming from Christchurch. I didn't see many old buildings because they're gone, unfortunately. But coming to Dunedin and seeing that old history and all that sort of stuff mixed with the vibe and sort of, I find a lot of passion-led projects here, and that's what I like the most about it. Yeah.
I love that passion-led projects. That's really awesome. It's nice. Well, we do dig into Dunedin a little bit more, and we have to ask, favourite place to have a bit of a lunch maybe? Where's your go-to in Dunedin?
Favourite Kai, Let Them Eat Vegan. Yeah, that's my favourite local spot.
Awesome.
I also like the place next door to it as well. But
yeah. Where is that? Where is Let Them Eat Vegan?
It's between the 2 malls. So it's between Wall Street Mall and the New World Supermarket in the alleyway there, next to Beam Me Up Bagels.
I know where you are.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about a nighttime meal, a bit more lavish for a dinner date or exercise out and about?
I like Catalyst. Yeah, Catalyst just on, I think it's Princess Street, George Street. Yeah,
beautiful place. And they offer vegan options as well, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Yeah. What about the yearly event that Dunedin has? Unless we're told we're not allowed to have events, but what's on the calendar that you think, I'm going to go to that every year because it's really special?
I really like the Thieves Alley Market. Wow. I think it's so cool. Yeah. I love seeing people with their mahi coming out and getting into the community and getting involved, and so such a wide range of talents and skills and all of that. So really the Thieves Alley Market is something that I'm interested in attending.
Crazy. You're speaking to a Dunedin born and bred lass.
Yep.
And it was always a part of the yearly calendar for as far back as I can remember. And I'm not sure when it started, but it was such a massive thing for years and years and years. And I love that it's still going. Gives the creators in town and out of town, because they do come from out of town to show and sell. Yeah, no, that's a really special one. Thank you. And that's usually in February every year, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Question that a lot of people find tricky, but we talked about it off camera and you thought that you might have an answer.
Yeah.
Is that Dunedin legend question.
Yeah.
So if you could share Ocho hot chocolate or whatever it might be from Dunedin with a Dunedin legend, and they might have passed on, but they might still be here as well. Who would that be and why, John?
Oh, I've got to say the Dunedin legends from 660. I would absolutely love to sit down with them, just because the journey of growth, where they've come from, how they've got to where they are today. You know, like if I had my own platform, that's definitely a guest I'd love to invite to come and speak on. And definitely, I think there could be a lot of value there. So
that's a beautiful answer, and very unique. We have not had anybody say 660 yet.
Cool.
I love their concerts, although they're missing Dunedin, I think, in this next wave, but that's all right. I'm sure they'll be back. And they've got the house where every year they provide sponsorship for, I think it's 4 that are studying in a music degree, and they're definitely legends of Dunedin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about Aspire Daily. We'll go back to your platform, and what is the plans for the next, let's say, short period of 6 to 12 months for you, John? What are you going to hope to achieve with Aspire Daily?
Plans for the next 6 to 12 months, I sort of put down to creative freedom, room for growth, that kind of thing. I was pushing hard to make something happen with it, but I think that I'm drawing back from that a little bit and actually just getting more connected to the community, getting connected to people, talking, sharing where I can, and involving myself with other organizations. I don't have to be the thing that creates everything. You know, I can go and speak on other platforms, I can get involved with other community events, and that's kind of how I want to bring Aspire Daily up. So at the moment I'm writing and really focusing on my new book that I'm hoping to finish at some stage this year.
Wow,
and
that's ambitious.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm focusing at the moment. Yeah.
Tell us about the book.
So my book is called The One Rule, and the one rule means overcome nearly everything. So it's about resilience building, finding purpose, and growing into a super rewarding future, and potentially coming from struggle. So that's kind of what it's all about. It follows 7 pillars of unity. That is a healing model that I've created myself. Te taimana katahitanga, I call it.
Fabulous.
And sort of all of these pillars interlink in how to live a purposeful and resilient life.
Not to put you on the spot, but do you want to talk about those 7 pillars, or maybe a couple that you think you'd like to highlight in particular that maybe people neglect more so?
Absolutely. So everyone's heard of well-being, right?
Of course.
Now, there's another beautiful healing model called Te Wharetapawha. Now, that sort of opened my eyes to living a rewarding life through small incremental changes. That is one of the pillars of unity, haora, balancing our well-being. The other pillars are mana, which is finding our own personal strength, finding ourselves, standing in who we are. Peace and conflict, balancing our conflicts, you know, and finding peacefulness in our daily lives. Another pillar is aroha, so reconnecting with nature, loved ones, and love for yourself. Self-love is such a issue in today's times. 80% of people have issues with self-confidence. That's what it says on Google anyway. And then I move into more of that subconscious stuff that I was talking about earlier. So thoughts, intentions, conscious, subconscious reality. And then finally, we've got Dharma and Karma, which come from Eastern cultures. So Buddhist and Hindu. subsections and beliefs. So that's about finding purpose and living intentfully.
Wow.
So all of those come together, and I tell a story from my own personal lived experience and how I found each one of those as I went. Mana, I didn't have much of my own personal sense of authority. I didn't feel like I belonged, and eventually I built that up. So I wrote about it, and that's kind of how the book goes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you think it's ever finished, our achievement? No. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah,
It's
no.
like, there's days where I feel confident in myself, and I can walk the talk and share the message with people and feel like I'm in my power, if you like, or my mana. And then the next day it's completely the opposite, and I'm like, I can't do this. Why am I doing this? Because I have no qualifications.
Yep.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah.
And it can flip
Yeah.
as quickly as that.
Yep.
Must
Absolutely.
be a constant evolving, I don't know, mechanism that we're working around.
Yeah, I'm fighting the imposter ideas, who are you to be a writer and things like that. And when I have those thoughts, I just say, okay, tomorrow I'm getting up and I'm writing a poem. I'm going to show myself that actually I've got this, So that's cool. But yeah, it is a spectrum. It is a pendulum, and it swings between balance and, I guess, not balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know that that's the case. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think, we all do suffer from that.
Yeah.
Not all of us. There's certainly some people that seem to walk through life and not, but
Yeah.
on the whole, all of the people I've met have challenges around that. 7 pillars feels like a lot.
It does. Yeah. It does. Yeah. I know. Yeah. And it's funny because I called it the one rule,
Yeah.
We've got 7 concepts to learn about.
Yeah.
But I promise you it's light.
It's light.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. And is there a recommended path of which one to look at or target first?
Personal sense of authority, discovering our why, knowing what our values are, knowing what we sort of want to aim towards, knowing where we come from, and investigating our last name. Like, I didn't know where my family was from. I learned that we came here in the 1880s on a ship called the Timaru. That's how I'm connected to that sort of Dunedin knowledge. Knowing that sort of, I guess, helped me discover who I am and where I come from, and using the stories that got me to where I am today as a source of strength rather than something I have to overcome or something I'm burdened with. Definitely that first one, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing the book published, and you'll be self-publishing.
I'm not sure. So,
Okay.
I've done a book before,
Okay.
and I sent it to 100 publishers, and the writing just wasn't there. So I've come back and I've decided I'm going to put everything into this one, and it will get published. But if it doesn't, I will self-publish. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that might be another thing to talk about, how you navigate that process in the future as well. Because we've had another person that's published a book, and the sentiment is similar. You have a solid piece of information and content that's relevant for lots of people. But I think it's a bit like becoming a pop star. It's about timing and luck a little bit, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Where the light is, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There is one other question that we often ask people that's a little bit tricky and can be a bit political and polarising, but we like to ask it.
Yeah.
So it's about power, and if you had the power to make a change here in Dunedin, that could affect yourself or others, the community as a whole, the city, the country, who knows. But what would something be that you'd like to see changed, that you'd like to talk about?
I don't have a wealth of knowledge around the role that comes to mind, but the first thing that comes to the mind is fund the NGOs, the non-government organisations that are doing so much for the community. I believe that a program could be invented or thought of to sort of give these organisations the power that they need to make an impact. Yeah.
As opposed to what we're seeing happen with the NGOs currently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I understand what you're talking about. They make such a difference, don't they? And they're very humble, usually very quiet and unspoken about the change that they make, but the funding is absolutely required because how do you support the people that are making the change?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, cool.
So, John, if people want to find you and they want to explore your services, because you are offering services to support people through their own journey, or they want to access your content and maybe support you, how would people find you?
Type Aspire Daily into Google. The first search should be Aspire Daily Health and Wellbeing. You'll find my website. If not, I'm Life Liberated on TikTok and Instagram, and it all sort of comes together. So that's sort of where to find me. Just type Aspire Daily and you'll find it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, John.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lovely to hear your journey so far, and I look forward to seeing how this rolls out for you.
Thanks very
John.
much.